Well, it's being called a good first step.
We had a very useful meeting. It was clarifying, I think, for both sides as to where we are.
House Republicans met with U.S. President Barack Obama Thursday at the White House to discuss a proposal to temporarily extend the federal debt limit. But it's contingent on the president agreeing to negotiate an end to the now 11-day partial government shutdown. And joining us now with reaction from Washington is the director of the Democracy Institute, Patrick Basham. Patrick, thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Good morning.
Good morning. So staff level talks continued late into the night, and many are calling the proposal by the GOP to extend the debt limit for another 6 weeks a sign of progress. But is it too early to call this a breakthrough?
Yeah, I think it is. It's a breakthrough heading to maybe a breakthrough. I mean, the Republicans are both sides are under pressure, obviously, as is President Obama, but the polls show the Republicans are getting hurt the worst. Everyone's being hurt, but it's hitting them hardest. So they were always most likely to come forward with something that would make some kind of difference. It's a Band-Aid, it's a punt down the field is what they're attempting, but in the world of Washington politics right now, that counts for quite a bit. That's how sad the situation is.
Well, let's get down to brass tacks. What will it take to break the stalemate? You said they're punting it down the field, but at some point they're going to hit up against a wall. What's it going to take to break this stalemate?
It's going to take either a strong break in public opinion for or against one side or the other, or some external shock to the system. Now that could happen if we hit up against the debt ceiling, the markets react very badly, and everything starts to go south financially in very serious, tangible terms. Then the public pressure will be overwhelming, the pressure from Wall Street will be overwhelming, and from the global markets, and maybe then, you know, the two sides' heads can be cracked together and we actually get a deal.
It seems like a scary game of brinksmanship, not just between both of the parties, but a stare down with the economy itself. Do you think both parties can agree on some sort of deal before the deadline? Is that realistic?
I think it's possible. I mean, just to save themselves politically, I think they probably will paper something over. It might end up being something similar to what the Republicans were proposing yesterday. I mean, it's mutually assured destruction right now. The government shutdown is one thing, but the debt ceiling limit is far more serious and far more immediate. And that is why people in Washington, the average person, is so frustrated with both sides. So the incentive is to make some kind of deal, but it will be a temporary short-term deal, I suspect.
The public opinion polls are, I mean, both parties take a look at these on a daily basis, on an hourly basis. What impact is this having on both parties in terms of the polls?
It is having some impact. I mean, both parties are unpopular, growing in unpopularity because of what they're doing. But the grassroots of both parties want each side, respectively, to dig in. So that's a counter pressure. But neither side is going to come out of this, you know, covered in any kind of roses unless they do something pretty dramatic and pretty soon. So I think the Republicans especially are pushing to do something that they can at least show to the wider public, if not their grassroots, and say, look, we are here to actually conduct the nation's business. You can continue to trust us to do that, which is something that most people are not inclined to do these days.
Lastly, Patrick, you're on the ground in the nation's capital. What is the mood amongst the people that you're talking to on a daily basis?
The overall general mood is one of widespread frustration, you know, a plague on both their houses and also on the White House to boot. But of course, when you ask people what would they like to see happen, apart from a deal being agreed, depending on whether they're Democrat, Republican, Liberal, Conservative, they have very different views on who's to blame and what the solution is. So everyone is upset. Everyone thinks this is a ridiculous situation. The stalemate is incredibly unproductive, counterproductive. But that's as far as it gets. You know, there isn't a consensus over how we get through this, and therefore that's reflected in the politics on Capitol Hill.
Patrick, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you.